I really don't like presenting after Rosalind because she's the consummate professional. She knows what she's talking about. She comes from her heart. The intellect can't be beaten. This is really important to her. I know it'll be important to everybody else, and I'm just going to step out and let her have the full stage.
I know one of the things that you've talked about, because I've listened to a few of your podcasts, is disordered eating disorders. And that is something that keeps coming up in this community, both anorexia, bulimia, and you seem to be an expert on it. So I'd love to hear your take on that and how it applies to what we're trying to teach people as a healthy diet and lifestyle.
I have, over the years, worked with a very large number of people, I have to say predominantly ladies, who have such serious problems with their eating that they've been sectioned. Some of them, I'm sad to say, have even passed over. If I can do anything to help even one person, then that's really made everything worthwhile for me. I had a lot of girls coming to me of surprisingly young ages. Two aspects of my work over the years. One, which has been the predominating one, has been helping girls or young ladies who have all manner of disordered eating. And the other is actually, very sadly, helping girls who are self-harming as a result of social media. I myself have in the past suffered from compulsive eating, bulimia, anorexia, and any other label you choose to give it. I've been there, done that, and nothing anyone can tell me about their relationship with food could ever surprise me or shock me, partly because of my own experience. I found my way through all of that, and I can hand on heart honestly say that I'm now totally happy and healthy in my relationship with my food. I did go on and work for many years professionally at a university where I was teaching essentially healthful living and nutrition. I went off and trained in counseling specifically to help my students at the university. And because of my own background in disordered eating, found it was an avenue that particularly suited me when it came to helping other people, as I'd managed to already secure my own recovery.
Do you think that there's a correlation there at all between eating disorders and what other people think of as restrictive diets?
In my experience, people with eating disorders become students of nutrition. And of course, the more they read and the more education they get, they start to discover that there is no actual question that a vegan diet is a healthier diet. And the truth seeps out between the pages of what they're reading, even though that wasn't why they went there. They then embraced perhaps the vegan diet and maybe then went on again and discovered even further the raw vegan diet, or then even the low-fat raw vegan diet. Who knows where it all took them. But I don't think for a second, in fact, I think the opposite, that a vegan diet causes eating disorders. And I don't think that people are vegans because they have eating disorders. I think they have found veganism in their search for answers, the majority. The human spirit does not fully incarnate into the human body at the time of birth. This theory falls in line with the work of Rudolf Steiner, who also believed the same thing, that childhood essentially represents the incarnation of the spirit, and it isn't complete until about age 21. If the spirit begins to incarnate at birth and then gradually comes to learn that the world is a place is really objectionable, terrifying, painful, frightening, traumatic, whatever, then that spirit is not going to wish to continue incarnating. And so what that spirit does, that spirit desires to de-incarnate. This is why if you stand an anorexic in front of a mirror, and despite the fact they look skeletally thin, they will tell you they're too fat. And the point is, they are going to always tell you they're too fat all the time they see matter in any form whatsoever, physical matter. Only when they look in the mirror and they see nothing is that spirit finally found peace and has de-incarnated from the distressful human experience. Now, the way I work with anorexics is I have to start off with the baseline of establishing if they want to embrace the human existence or if they really do want to end it. And in most cases, thank heavens, they choose to embrace it. The way then to go about this is to get them to bring the spirit into the body by touching the body and saying, this is my arm. It's been given to me as a gift so that I can have a human experience. And we move throughout their entire body, hands on, all the time, claiming themselves, claiming the spirit back into the body and deciding to choose life. And what they're eating, whether they're eating or whether they're not eating, is never my concern. The last thing these people should be having is being shamed, being in any way physically or psychologically abused, oppressed, or forced into anything, because that exactly compounds the desire of the spirit to take flight. The leaner physique of really healthy people is actually what nature intended. But the eye, particularly the eye of the Westerner, is so programmed to seeing something carrying a lot more weight and seeing that as normal, that it appears that they look even emaciated, perhaps, in their view. The human body is set up for deprivation of food. In nature, there would be times of food scarcity by the very, very natural environment that we would live in. What it's not set up at all to manage is overindulgence, and to actually be carrying a heavier body fat percentage than is natural to the human. And of course, that then results to the chronic diseases we know of today. What happens is often food is used as an emotional analgesic. And I will explain more about that in a moment. Food is used like an emotional painkiller, and it's put into the body. Your nervous system is what coordinates all of the actions that take place inside your body in concert with your endocrine system, which are your hormones. We only have so much neurological energy in our physiology at any given time. In conducting emotions or feeling emotions is an absolute drain on the nervous system of the body. The other thing that's very expensive on your nervous energy is digesting a complex meal. And so if you put in enough food or enough of a complicated digestive task, your body has to divert its energies to that digestive task and is no longer available to conduct the intense emotions. And this is why you can literally eat yourself into a place of emotional numbness, effectively. So if you put that food in when you're feeling emotionally uncomfortable, it will make those uncomfortable emotions go away. The body is set up for survival. It's set up to thrive and survive. And there's nothing about the programming of our physiology that's set up for self-destruction. However, when we put certain foods in the body, they bring about a shift in our experience. Some foods bring about a far greater change than others. And it's the change that we get addicted to. The psyche, that is what gets addicted to the shift that's brought about by the substance. What you should do with emotions is feel them, rather than always trying to get rid of them or dumb them down with substances. You should sit and feel them. Dear souls out there who really have been through these horrendous experiences and they're having challenges with their food, I do encourage you to consider the possibility of inviting those emotions to really be fully felt. Certain people in our westernized society are going to be far more susceptible to these addictions than others. Women are more and more expected to be out there earning money and keeping the house clean and tidy and raising the children and doing everything else in between. And so the pressures on women are enormous. And I don't think that's helped at all either. My personal view of social media is I think it is absolutely toxic. Absolutely toxic. I know it can have its advantages and it can be used well, but the majority do not use it well. And it's a very dangerous thing. I breastfed her till she was 8 years old. That caused quite a lot of social interest, as you can imagine. I got a lot of flack from my own community, if you like, and people around me for breastfeeding her for so long. I don't believe in weaning. I think that the child comes to a point where they choose to no longer continue breastfeeding, and then that's right for them. She's never, ever eaten outside of a vegan diet, and she's eaten a raw vegan diet. When I took the shift from simply vegan to raw vegan, that was when my eating disorder really, came to its end. I just wasn't having the same issues. It had been improving over the years, but that change is what really finally set me free out of the prison. It really was. I'm not against gourmet. If it's occasionally, let's face it, enjoyment of life is as important to health as anything else. But if you do take these nuts and this coconut oil and this whatever it is, and then more of this fruit, and then more of these nuts, then a different nut, and then some more fruit, and then some carob powder, and then we'll put in some cashews, and you mix it all up together, you can make it so indigestible that even though it's raw vegan, it has this same deadening effect on your emotions because the digestive task is massive.
I think that sometimes people think they're binging when they're not binging, because if they're new to low calorie density, high nutrient eating, I think they don't realize you've got to eat more food than you would if you were eating oil and sugar and flour and things like that, which have a much higher caloric density, and you would need smaller volumes if you were eating high fat as well.
People underestimate the quantity because it's got high water content and high fiber content. You potentially could overeat on anything. I mean, if you put enough of something in your system that your whole digestive system is completely overwhelmed, it will still dull your emotions. I mean, I've been eating a raw vegan diet now for more than half my life, which is well over 30 years. So, yeah.
That is fantastic. Were you vegan before you were raw vegan?
Yes, I was. I was vegetarian, vegan, and then raw vegan. I'm a staunch natural hygienist, but I'm not going to die for a philosophy. If somebody tells me, you have sort of severe pneumonia, and unless you take this, you're going to die, I'm not going to say, oh, no, that's against my hygiene principles. I'm going to take something, and then as soon as I've taken that, get right back on track with my regimen and follow through on my usual program. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never making errors. It's not about occasionally steaming some vegetables lightly because your jaw is in agony. It's not about any of that. It's about your overall ideology of life, the perspectives, the way you see things, who you view yourself to be, and your intent and the integrity of your intent. Veganism is really the most important thing for me. That I have never, ever compromised my veganism, not one single occasion since I made that decision. And I never would do, because it's far more important than my own personal health or needs. It is absolute, deep, heartfelt ethics that I will not compromise for anybody.
You're lovely. I just have to say, I can see why Dr. Graham is so fond of you.
Bless you, AJ. The path to a happier, healthier future, I think, is the world is currently in turmoil, but that can be seen as a wonderful thing, because in amongst that turmoil is an inordinate amount of rich opportunities for those of us who are coming from a vegan ethic to finally be heard. This is the world's greatest opportunity yet for true compassion to come through to humanity. So to be happy, you have to start with compassion for yourself. You have to lead a fully emotional life. Once you allow yourself to fully feel your emotions rather than trying to deaden them, dumb them down, or give them to somebody else, once you fully feel your emotions, then you can start to fully feel compassion for yourself. And with that compassion, which will start then to multiply and overflow, that compassion will reach everybody else. That every single person that is fortunate enough to be touched by your life will be touched by compassion. And as such, they will heal. And through that healing, they also will develop a vision, and they also will start to eventually find the vegan ethic. And then they too will go to the same place, and they'll heal themselves, and they will then overflow with compassion. And so it will go on like dominoes. But these dominoes aren't falling down. These are fallen dominoes finally standing up. Let's all hold hands on a spiritual level and keep on holding hands and don't let go, because we can do this together. We can do this. We really can change the world.